Welcome back to the Lately Lowdown on the Purple Podcast. This is episode number 24 in the grand scheme now of all the things. But yeah, happy to be back on the mic. I'm really enjoying this new process. I think it's working out well. Let me know what you all think in terms of, these shorter episodes. But I'm enjoying it a lot more myself. Obviously, is getting a little off track, but obviously I do want to end up having people on again and kind of having some of the buddies, getting some good chat and banter, things like that. But right now, in terms of these solo podcasts, it's a lot more manageable, of course, because it's a lot to ask of people. I get everyone's busy, everything like that. But in terms of the process that I now have for these solo podcasts, it's doing a lot better for me in regards to just how long the episodes had been were getting. So these shorter ones, I don't get as worn by the end of them. And I think just overall, it just makes the content a lot more, or just a lot better, pretty much. Maybe y'all still don't like me, but yeah, I'm enjoying it doing a lot. I'm enjoying doing it a lot more this way, no doubt. So yeah, without any further ado there, we'll talk about this weekend in fun. It was my birthday weekend. My birthday was on Friday, but Friday was a pretty good day overall. Didn't have a lot of meetings in terms of work. I don't think I think I had one internal one that actually ended up getting canceled. So not a bad day in terms of working. During that day, actually, I did end up buying Elden Ring. I know I talked about that last week, and we'll touch on that a little bit more. Played it throughout the weekend, so it's going to come up on basically every day here. But anyways, bought it, played it, enjoying it. We'll touch on that a little bit more. But other than that, in terms of the actual Friday and fun on my birthday, ended up making it out to St. Matthews. We did a little St. Matthews bar crawl. Me and my girlfriend initially headed out to Saints. Some friends met up with us there. We then went over to Cole's, the little pizzeria over there. They have a bar as well, where ended up drinking a bourbon and Coke. I'm typically not drinking a lot of mixed drinks at the bars these days. There was a time for it. Haven't been doing it as much recently, but got some of that brown water in my veins that night. Warmed me up, hugged me from within. So it was nice. I think I might be returning to it if you all see me out on the bar scene sometime soon. I might be drinking them bourbon and Cokes during this cooler weather, of course. But go to Cole's, just have one drink there. They were closing up. One of my buddies worked there. He wasn't working at the time, but that's what gave us the idea to go there. So we stopped in there. That was a good time. Ended up running on over to the Fox's Den, which is what replaced Diamonds. So same deal there, basically. They still have the pool tables and everything. Had a couple drinks there. Ended up running over to Gerstl's, and then finally the Tin Roof. Both of those places shaking my ass a little bit. They had some music going, some live bands at Gerstl's, and at Tin Roof. Honestly, it was probably just a DJ, but yep, I shook my ass. Me and my pals, we all shook our asses and had a pretty good night. So, good birthday night there. Drank a little too much to be expected, but felt pretty good. Didn't have a bad day the next day. Wasn't hungover or anything. But Saturday basically hung in all day. Didn't do much. Watched a lot of football. Played a lot of Elden Ring. There it is. And then later that night, actually ended up heading out to O'Shea's. We probably didn't even leave our house till around 11:30. So late start to that night. We weren't out too long after that either. But, it was nice weather. Good to see some people, have a couple drinks as well. Getting into Sunday, was able to get an earlier start this weekend. Did not wake up at 3 p.m. again. So I was able to catch the 1 p.m. games. Didn't catch the, one of the better games of the day, the London game between the Packers and the Giants. The G-men got it done. Vanilla Vic, Daniel Jones leading those boys out there. Saquon Barkley having a pretty good return as well. A bounce back year for him. But did that, watched a couple games, ended up around 5-ish, heading out to Chubby Ray's, meeting up with the family, having a couple drinks there and having some dinner. Good to meet up with them. Hadn't spent any time with the family in a while. So always nice to get those little dinner things in. Make sure you do that, guys. No doubt. But that'll basically no. I guess. Well, I played some more Elden Ring later in that. I played some more Elden Ring that night, as well as even later into the night watched House of Dragon. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So we'll actually go straight to the gaming portion of this podcast here, because we will talk about Elden Ring. Truly enjoying it so far. Like I said, with watching all these medieval shows, I kind of wanted a little fix for that, to indulge in all of that as well. So it's surely doing it. It's one of those games that I probably got a little bit of a late start to it. A lot of people, there was a lot of talk about it. I think it's almost a shoe-in for Game of the Year kind of deal. So very, very cool game. If you know George R.R. Martin, he is the guy who wrote the Game of Thrones books. They asked him to come on and help with some of the backstory, the lore, all that. So you can tell how in depth and how much work they really put into this, and you feel it. The world is massive. There's tons of depth. Just the difference between all of the just people you're fighting, because that's another thing to note about it. It is an incredibly dangerous world that they built. There is, enemies everywhere. There are difficult enemies everywhere, and you start off at a pretty low level. It's an RPG, so you're trying to upgrade your player as you go along. But man, it is difficulty. It is sweaty. So if you want a little bit of a challenge, of course, that'll be the game for it. There's a ton of exploring, and just really not even a ton of direction either. I had to look up a lot of things just to kind of figure out what the fuck I was supposed to be doing, because there really isn't. It was pretty vague and obscure in that you were going around leveling your player up, but you weren't necessarily in most open world games you would select a mission at some point. You can still explore the world, of course, but you would choose a mission at some point to actually do it, and it doesn't really necessarily do that in this. It's just always throughout the world. You do get pointed in the direction, but it's not exactly the most straightforward game in telling you what you have to do, and I think that's purposeful in that it's supposed to be kind of an exploration of the world. But the basics of it is essentially you're in this world called, I guess, the lands between. So that's where you're at. It's a fictional landmass, and apparently there's these demigods that are ruling it, several demigods. So what initially had happened is this so-called immortal queen, Marika, was holding the Elden Ring, which basically controlled the world. She could control death, and she was a bad ruler, someone that she had defending, I guess, the death part of the Elden Ring, the death rune of the Elden Ring was killed and taken or something, and then she basically shattered it because she was distraught. She disappeared, but all her I guess essentially sons and daughters are said to have tried to repair the Elden Ring, and they all have one for themselves, and they hold a lot of power, so it's corrupting them, and they're just evil beings in themselves. So your main goal is essentially you have to travel around the world, get better, and take down these people, repair the Elden Ring, and become the Elden Lord. A lot of storytelling in it. It's great. And, as much as I went into how much I love the Tolkien world last week as well, I love these backstories. I love when someone's actually put the time in to, make something this in-depth and thorough. The world is absolutely beautiful too, because you go around to some places and it just looks like, some boring green land. That happens, of course, but there's this golden tree. There's areas where the fucking sky turns to night and it's a purple. It's insane. So anyways, loving it so far. It's going to be an absolute grind. I haven't killed or even began. I've met one demigod briefly, I believe, but not in any position to take him down yet or kill him. So this game is going to be a fucking grind. So I'm going to do my best. I'll keep you all updated on it. But if you haven't yet and you're into shit like that, that's one to look into. Absolutely. Other gaming news, I am still on the hunt for the PS5. I did not get the invitation from Amazon, so that's all right. I'm in no rush necessarily, but it's definitely something that I will want to get at some point. Something that comes to note, which I'll actually talk about a little bit later, The Last of Us. I really want to play that game again. It's been remade. I don't know if I discussed that last week at all or not, but that was a game that I played early on. We'll get to that a little bit later too, because they have a TV show coming up. But the PS5 hunt's continuing. No hurry, like I said, but still hunting. On to TV and film. This is going to be probably a bulk of the episode here. This is what it's looking like with Rings of Power coming out, as well as House of Dragon. We are on to the season finale after this episode of Rings of Power. But episode 7, The Eye, comes out on Friday. Like we discussed last week, Mount Doom had just erupted. Adar had enacted Sauron's plan to bring the Southlanders into darkness. But what we're initially seeing is basically the fallout of it. Ashes everywhere, people falling, things on fire. I think like a horse is on fire right out the gate. So pretty wild imagery there in that. But we see Tom Muriel as well as Isildur. Tom Muriel, I don't even know how to say her name. This is really bad. And all these R's, I think I'm bad at pronouncing R's sometimes. But Tar Muriel is the woman who came from Numenor. She's the queen. We see her along with Isildur. They rescue his one friend, I think Otto something terrible. I don't even know his name. Ontimo or something like that. And then we see their other friend was actually killed. And then we see them go into another place to rescue children where basically Isildur doesn't return. He's thought to be dead, of course. We know that he is not. If you've watched Lord of the Rings, if you have not, I just spoiled it. He's not going to be dead because he has, bigger things to do in the Lord of the Rings world later on. But basically that's what we get. The people who have escaped or have survived, we see them traveling through the woods. They're just going to a meetup point, essentially. Elandil knows that Isildur is not with them. Not very happy. He seems to turn his tide pretty quick because he was all ready to join these people to come over here and basically fight the evil with Galadriel. And immediately, now that he's lost his son, I guess understandably so, is not happy with the decision. Thinks they should have never came. Tar Muriel, the queen, we figure out she's blind as well now. She didn't recognize that they had been out of the ash for however long, but she can only see gray at this point. We also see Galadriel and Theo. They're kind of on their own separate quest. They're together. Kind of a weird duo to put together, but was interesting as well. Some really good quotes from their travels through it, and I read something very funny about it. But basically, Theo is celebrating killing orcs at some point, and Galadriel says, "It darkens the heart to call dark deeds good. It gives place for evil to thrive inside us. Every war is fought both without and within. Of that every shoulder must be mindful. Even I, even you." So some very pretty. I thought that was a very strong quote. I like the thought of just even the imagery of that. Dark deeds. If you're just calling them, good, gives evil a place to thrive in your heart. Very, very cool stuff there. And then also along that journey, Theo says he's guilty. He said he gave power to the enemy, so that makes me responsible. Galadriel then responds, with some more self-help here. Some say it is the way of things. Some say that it is the way of things, but I believe the wise also look upon what is in our hearts, and this was not in yours. Do not take the burden of this day upon your shoulders, Theo. You may find it difficult to put it down again. Just some pretty profound stuff there. This article I read says, when is Galadriel's self-help book hitting the shelves? I'm ready to pre-order it now. So funny, but I thought that was worth mentioning, those quotes there. I thought they were, those are ones that even in the moment, it's those kind of, those were profound. That felt, that was nice. That was nice there. And then another kind of neat note when they're traveling along, when it's dark out, they hide in this little, I guess, under this ledge. We see the orcs coming up. Kind of a callback to the Fellowship of the Ring when Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin are hiding underneath that one, and the Nazgul is trying to, they kind of sniff around, but they don't see anything there. So kind of a callback to that moment in that. Moving on here, we see a little bit of our, well, I guess towards the end, we'll wait on that. But moving over to the Harfoots and the Stranger, basically they arrive at the Grove to see that the explosion from Mount Doom has reached all the way there. So they're, I guess, everything that they expected to be there was kind of like burnt and beat. The then like one, I can't think of his name right now, but like the leader of these Harfoots asks the Stranger to actually help them. He starts messing with the tree a bit and breaks the tree. People get scared, end up kind of sending him off, just saying, you should probably go your own way, until they wake up the next day and they see that everything has been replenished. He did do some kind of magic. Who is this Stranger? Still waiting on that. I was looking on some things here, or on the internet. There was one of the articles had a poll asking. I guessed Gandalf. That was my guess, and it seemed that it said 48% had thought the same thing. So that's probably the leader. The other options are like Sauron. There's also Radagast. He was like the brown wizard in it, who's very related to nature and does all those things. That's kind of his main focus as a wizard there. But yeah, don't know who he is. The hobbits end up leaving off because they're going to run after him. They had some weird ass people, I don't even know what you want to call them, come around, burn all their shit down. But the next day, they decide they're going to run after the Stranger. I think 4 of them decide to take that route. It is Nori, her friend, I can't think of her name right now, her 2 parents, and then also the leader. But that basically does it for the Hobbits in this. Still a lot unknown in terms of that storyline, no doubt. In terms of Elrond and Durin, one of the brightest parts of this series so far has just been like their relationship, seeing them as friends. We're at a point where Elrond had asked Durin to help him with the Mithril because his people need it. They're dying. The King Durin ends up saying, no, not going to allow it. This is the way of the world. This is their fate. We didn't have anything to do with this. We can't play our part in this. Ends up having this scene where we see Durin, upset because he knows he's saying goodbye to his friend, because he's going to have to Elrond's going to have to go to the Undying Lands to save him and his people. They can't survive on Middle Earth anymore. They're going to have to leave. But he throws the Mithril little rock next to that leaf that Elrond had brought, and we see it bring back to life. The 2 then go on their own little digging excursion, just kind of mining it themselves. And, King Durin, not happy, kicks Elrond out. Son Durin with King Durin have their argument, a little following out in that themselves. And he then, basically orders it to be closed out. He throws the leaf back into the hole they had once dug, where we see this leaf fall all the way down into the mountain. We see the Mithril, I guess, kind of veins of the mountain, like, they're almost like veins within it. And a Balrog, which is, just a devilish beast, is kind of awoken. So calling to the fall of Khazad-dûm. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen, during this series, because I think it's supposed to, like, in the actual timeline of Tolkien, to be a lot further back than, or like a lot more into the future than where we are currently. So it's not the same timeline when that actually does happen. So weird that they would show it if they're not going to use it, which leads me to believe that they might just show it. And then the final thing we're pretty much left with is Adar with his orcs. They're all praising it. They're saying the Southlands are ours or whatever. And the quote comes, He says, Southlands is the name of a place that no longer exists. And then we see the text switch from Southlands to Mordor. Bang, it's over. Season finale. Going to be a big one. A ton's going to happen, and I think we're going to have to wait even longer for season 2. I think it's not even going to be next year, but the year after that. So that really stinks, I'll be honest. But this season finale should be pretty awesome. I don't know where they're going to go with it because it almost seems like everyone's, retreating. There's not going to be like another battle, but maybe we'll learn a lot more about, who the stranger might be. And then I don't know if we're going to see much more of the Elrond Durin thing yet either. So that'll do it for that. We'll see. Excited for it, guys. Moving on to House of Dragon. This episode is number 8, Lord of the Tides. I'm not sure how far along we are in this actual season. I don't know when the season finale will be. But another time jump. We move forward. Rhaenyra has been with Daemon for some years now. They have some kids. I think they have one on the way as well. The other ones have kind of grown up. What really sets everything into action in this show here, or this episode, is Corlys, basically the Sneeze Snake, is injured in his, I guess he's fighting in the Stepstones again after his son had died, or supposedly died last week. Laenor, they say he's basically taken his anger out. He's going to the Stepstones and been fighting there. This is 6 years later than the last episode. And he's been injured, potentially fatally. So, the heir to the Driftmark throne is in question. Vaemond Valerian is obviously questioning the throne and getting pissed off because of, Corlys had already named Luke, so Rhaenyra's second son, who is Sir Harwin's actual son. So, everyone knows this. I don't even have to explain this. So, basically, he's not actually a Valyrian. He doesn't believe that he should be in that throne. He thinks it's preposterous. So, everyone travels back to the Red Keep. They're going to be basically petitioning for this throne, where we see Viserys at this point is, finally probably on his way out the fucking door. He's somehow survived this long already, but he is in bad shape now. He's basically given away the running of the show to Alicent and the Hand, who have this new, Faith of the Seven, these 7-pointed stars all over the place. So you can tell he doesn't have much hold on the throne anymore in terms of, he's not controlling a lot of it. But we see him petitioning. Rhaenyra has already done some, politicking around, reaching out to Rhaena. So is her aunt, who is obviously the Sea Snake's wife, talked with her a bit. Also went to her father, and that's when she introduced him to her children, which she's naming one of them Viserys, one Aegon. So they are just really bad at naming people. They have zero creativity, is what I'm basically getting at there. But she asked for his help too, because he's, at the end of the day, he's the one that, put her into the throne next. So it'll be a question of also her offspring. So she's basically just, petitioning for help from him. They go in there, begin talking. Vaemond goes off on it, essentially starts telling it his point. Gets at a very fair point. He's these obviously are not Valyrian kids. They should not have, what I'm entitled to. And he has, a lot of very fair points. Rhaenyra goes up, and you feel that, she's probably fucked. We see Alicent up there in the Hand, so she's not in, she's not in the company of people who really care for her very much at this point. Then the doors open. We see King Viserys in a very, very horrible state, walking down. He's like, I will take the throne today. Badass moment. Big Dixum. People like to talk about Viserys like he's a pussy. But, he does have some backbone, guys. Give him a break. He's out here dying half the time. And, the question of him as a king, he's not... I think he's done a great job. I think he's brought peace. He's brought prosperity. There's just a lot of snakes around who, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who has the throne. Someone's going to be gunning for it in this kind of world. That's all it is. There's not a lot of light. That's where a lot of my, I guess, gripes with this show exist, because it's just not a happy show. It's not. You don't have people that you really want to root for or anything like that. There's not light. There's not. I don't know. That's what's great about Lord of the Rings, because there's something to fight for. There's something that worth fighting for. This is just, power hungry pieces of shit. That's the way I would put it. No one's looking to actually do any good. And for Viserys, he actually was that guy who cared about his family, as we see, Before I get too far off the mark, I basically need to touch on, Vaemond. He gives up his point. He goes for it. He says it. Sorry, Walker's in the background yawning right now. Calm it down, bud. But Vaemond calls her children, or Rhaenyra's children, bastards, as well as calling her a whore. Viserys stands up and says, "I'll have your tongue for that." Not quick enough. Daemon has sliced his head in half. Crazy scene. And his tongue's still intact. He says he can keep his tongue. Wild part. So he's dead. I think he knew he was going to die there, so he was just going out with some kind of honor. And he was correct to some extent. But Viserys then at that point wants to have the dinner party, where I was touching on, he wants to have this family. He wants to put them together. He doesn't want everyone to be fighting. He said it last time. To really no avail. We see that at the dinner party, people do stand up and, make some toast. Rhaenyra does to Alicent, thanks her for being there for her father through all this time and standing by him wholeheartedly. Alicent then does the same, and, there's a bunch of, exchanges of goodwills at that point. And then Viserys, starts having a fit where he's hurting. He's on his way out, guys. He's dying. So he gets removed, and then, Aemond stands up and, does his little bitch thing. People are just, there's some animosity between the kids. That's where you're seeing a lot of it here. They get in a little scuffle, a little fight, a little punching around, gets broken up quick enough, but you can feel it. Not all is solved, even though, Rhaenyra and Alicent to some extent did seem like they were on pretty good terms with that. The last scene of this, and, obviously the most important one, Rhaenyra had earlier been talking with Viserys about the blood or the fire and ice dream that her, I guess, great-great-grandfather, somewhere along the line, I think it was maybe Viserys' grandfather, I don't know. Someone had this vision in a dream, and that's why, he chose her to be the queen and be the heir to the throne. It was, the dream was had by Aegon. Alicent comes up to, help Viserys in his, poppy of the milk haze, high as balls, basically starts muttering about the fire and ice tale because he thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra, but it's Alicent. Alicent's kind of asking him questions here and there. He's out of it. It's not a full conversation, but she, one way or another, takes it so as to believe he's saying Aegon needs to be the rightful heir. So she's going to run with that, and that's where we're left off, and this is where, there's going to be some fighting involved. It's definitely going to be occurring here just because, she's steadfast in her stance at this point now. He said that's what he said. She believes it, even though she probably just wanted to believe it. That's what he was saying to some extent. I think she had, somewhat come around, it felt like, at that dinner party. Maybe that was all fake and just a show. I don't know. But you can tell she's still going to go for it. Obviously, there's going to be some kind of conflict. So this next episode should be pretty fucking wild in itself. We'll see. Like I said, this isn't my favorite show because, truthfully, people just aren't. There's not a lot of people to root for. There's not a lot of good feeling stuff, and I don't need it all the time. But I need something. I need something to grab for and root for. But these people are just trying to crawl over each other, and it's just it's just more watching, people behave. It's just people behaviors is what we're watching, a lot of it. But there should be some action coming up too. Done with that. Moving on, some other things in terms of TV. I have continued watching Dahmer. I'm not sure how much further we got into it, but same shit, same issues I had last time. Same deal. Not much to report there. And then I touched on The Last of Us earlier when I was talking about basically my PS5 hunt. But The Last of Us is a video game that came out in 2013, post-apocalyptic world, and truthfully, probably my favorite story video game I've ever played. It was just great. The gameplay was great. The crafting, just how everything played, the story was just amazing. I remember it was probably my freshman or sophomore year of high school. It was right around Christmas and midterms, and I was watching Chris Smoove play The Last of Us. I watched his whole entire playthrough just because I wanted to play it so bad. I ended up getting a PS4, I think, for that Christmas, and ended up beating it relatively quickly as well. But there's a show to come out from that game in 2023 from HBO. I've posted it on my story here and there. So I guess it's not necessarily coming out soon. 2023, I'm not sure, first half, second half, whatever. But really looking forward to that one. That's something that I wanted to touch on there. If there's anyone that can make this transition work, it would be HBO. It's always concerning a video game going from video game to TV show. Who knows? Or just even video game to big screen. Who knows? So we have that. And the other kind of note with that, there's an upcoming movie, the Super Mario Bros. So we'll see how that comes up. But that should be kind of fun itself. If we look at the cast there, we have Chris Pratt as Mario, Charlie Day as Luigi, Jack Black as Bowser, Seth Rogen, Donkey Kong, Keegan-Michael Key. So they're going for it as Toad. They're going to go for it. Oh, I forgot Anya Taylor-Joy is Princess Peach. So they're really going for it. I'm excited about it. I'll probably go see it. Maybe in theaters. That might be wild. But exciting. Other things in terms of film, Fantastic Mr. Fox is a recommendation I'm going to make for you guys if you haven't seen it yet. This is I was calling it the favorite fall film, but it's just one of my favorite films in period. This is a 2009 film by Wes Anderson. It is a stop motion film, a little quirky, fun in that, as are all Wes Anderson films. That's one that I think just really fits the fall theme. So if you're wanting to get a little more in the theme, watch that movie. You're gonna have a lot of your oranges, your browns, all of that, as well as just overall a good movie, a little bit different, probably not your standard cup of tea, but recommendation if you all want to check that out as well. Moving on here to some other sports news. Obviously, this weekend we had the MLB playoffs. The wild card began. Tampa Bay ended up falling to the Cleveland Indians, and that was a pretty competitive one. Not a lot of runs scored. First game, Cleveland wins 2-1, and then the second game goes into, I think, 15 innings where Cleveland finally walks it off, 1-0. So not a lot of scoring. Tough one to lose if you're Tampa Bay, just because you were right there. I know Jose Ramirez hit probably a sixth inning 2-run homer in that first game anyway. So not giving up a lot of runs, you just couldn't fucking score. And we knew that, honestly, all year long. I know that was something about them. They have always had good pitching, but their offense was pretty suspect. The Phillies take down the Cardinals in 2 games as well. They go to St. Louis and beat them twice. So great to see that. The divisional foe getting taken out pretty easily. They lose 6-3 in that first game, and then the second game, Philadelphia wins 2-0. Seattle and Toronto, the Blue Jays, they lose both those games at home as well. The Mariners. So we're gonna be riding the Mariners out for the rest of the playoffs here. They take the first one 4-0, and then that second game, high scoring game, 10-9. The only wild card matchup to go to 3 games is that Padres Mets series, and the Mets are home in that one as well. They lose the first game 7-1. Mets come back and win 7-3 in game 2, and then the Padres end up winning 6-0 in that final game. So now we have left the Cleveland and the Yankees in an ALDS matchup, the Mariners and the Astros. On the NL side, we have the Phillies and the Braves, and then also the Padres and the Dodgers. So they'll have a West matchup there in the NL, an East matchup in the NL, well, above that. So the Braves, Phillies, that's an NL East matchup. Dodgers and the Padres, that is an NL West matchup. I think the Mariners and the Astros are actually in the same division some weird way as well. But the Yankees and the Guardians are not. A lot of fun to come. I think those games start Tuesday, so looking forward to it. In terms of Cubs news, Wilson or no Wilson, not much to say, but Jed Hoyer especially said we are definitely making Wilson a qualifying offer. I saw something that, didn't say that earlier as well, so we'll see. A lot to say, a lot of time too. We'll see how it goes. Not much else to report there. In other sports, looking around across the pond here, we're going to touch on the Chelsea Blues. My team, showing some good performances lately, been in pretty good form, following a pretty tough start where we, fired our manager and hired a new one. We take down Wolves 3-0, so that's back-to-back 3-0 wins for the team. So we're scoring and we're not conceding. Good look. That happened on Saturday. Looking at the table here, Chelsea's actually in fourth. Arsenal all the way up in first currently. They're 1 point ahead of Man City. So Arsenal's sitting at 24, Man City 23. Tottenham, who we've actually beat this year, is sitting at 20. And then the old Blues are at 16th here in terms of the Premier League. Man United is right behind at 15. We're early on. We're only 8 matches in for the most part. So still 30 more to go, but closing in about a quarter way through the season. Other news for us, our actual next game is going to be tomorrow. We take on Milan again in group stage of Champions League. Our next Premier League match will be on Saturday against Aston Villa. But Milan tomorrow, also the Champions League. We've found ourselves to be in a contending place. We're currently sitting at, we're tied for second, but we have a head-to-head win against Milan. So currently we're in second. RB Salzburg is in first with 5 points. So we're sitting at 4. Milan's at 4, and Dynamo Zagreb is at 3. So anyone could win this division. We play Milan again. We just beat them 3-0. We're looking good. We had a bad start. We had a draw and a loss. We hadn't won anything. So that was our first Champions League win this year. But still very easily can finish top 2. Just take care of business and we're good. So we'll see. Go Blues. Moving on to the NHL. I said I'm going to cover them. I'm going to do the Blackhawks. The NHL season will be starting on Wednesday, 10/12. The Blackhawks, I did read today, are sitting at 32nd in the power rankings, so they're the worst team in the league. It plays out, in preseason we went 1-5 and we're outscored 22-6. So it's going to be a tough one to begin rooting for this team, but I'm going to keep up with them. I'm going to do at least a quick little weekly wrap up of what occurred in terms of the scoring or the record and all that. But first game we'll be playing the Avalanche, who are fresh off a Stanley Cup championship. So probably not going to be a good start to the year, but that's all right. Go Blackhawks. We can do it. Finally, in terms of sports news, we'll cover the final Chicago team that I follow. It'll be the Bulls. Still one more preseason game. That is tomorrow against the Bucks. But so far, we are 2-1. We've beat the Nuggets and the Raptors and lost to the Pelicans by 4. First game of the year will be Wednesday, October 19th against the Heat. That'll be a good test early. The Heat finished pretty strong last year. Were they the 1 seed in the East? I can't remember. But that's going to be a good Heat team. It's going to be a test early. We look all right. We're sitting at 14th in the power rankings, so we're about, halfway through this league. There's 30 teams, so not great. Honestly, to be expected. Our team isn't amazing. I think we can make the playoffs, no doubt, because, half the league makes the playoffs anyways in the NBA. But probably not going to be, you know what, it's just too early. But I'm excited for it. Like I said, I'm probably going to get Game Pass, going to be watching a lot of those games. So I'll probably have more to report in terms of the Bulls going forward as well. But yeah, that'll basically wrap it up, guys. This is the second Lately Lowdown on the Purple Podcast. I think it's working. This one did go a little bit longer. We were sitting at about 40 minutes, but that's still respectable. That's not terrible. That's why I said I'm gonna stick it. I'm gonna for sure stay under 45 minutes, and it'll probably be around like 30 to 45 minutes each episode. But tomorrow should be getting out another episode of the football wrap up as well, and I'll actually do some of the wrap up. So that one will probably be longer than last week's as well. But we're going to stick around 45 minutes at the most, guys. I think that's worked. When we were getting to like an hour and 5 minutes, hour and 10 minutes, that was painful, and I can't expect you all to listen to all that. I mean, honestly, I don't really expect a lot of people to listen to all of this, but I'm having fun doing it. Those of you who do listen and have gotten all the way to the end, thank you. I do appreciate it, and even if you didn't, I still love you. So everyone have a great week. It's Monday. Let's get it kicked off right. Got some trivia I'm going to head over to shortly at 7 tonight at Bros Older Than Dirt. That's Joe's Older Than Dirt. So if you're there, maybe I'll see you. I'm probably going to beat you in trivia, though. K is for horses. Let's go. But anyways, thank you all for listening. And again, I love you all. Take care of yourself. Have a great rest of your week. I'll be talking to you tomorrow. So, Purple Podcast. Lately Lowdown, episode number 24. Peace.